Yeah. You know, everywhere you look, the world is turning into a gigantic Zen fiesta. Every place you look. There's this headline that says, man bites dog, arouses wife. That's pure Zen. I repeat, man bites dog, arouses wife. San Bernardino, California. A woman accused her husband of biting their one-eyed Pekingese dog because the animal took a nip at him first. A sheriff's deputy here in San Bernardino reported Friday. No complaint was filed, but the officer advised Joe Cardova to go to a hospital for treatment for a cut above his eye. Now, the question there is whether the man... I can only say that there is fair play in this world, even if it is Zen fair play. Zen. Say that to yourself. It comes through the top of the nose. It feels real good. Like one of those very, very powerful cough drops. Zen. Speaking of the Zen world, 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, pow, crash. You are part of this modern, hard-hitting, thunderous, dynamic, ever-expanding, ever-exploding world. Yes, fun comes in many packages and under many guises. And now an advertisement from Superman Comics, page 40, April 1963. Hey, kids, make all-out war in your own home. Play alone or against other players. You get enough nuclear battle equipment for maximum effort warfare, and massive, we repeat, massive counterattack. Never before so much actual design, working model, USAF type firepower and manpower. Your opponent prepares to launch a sneak atomic attack. He sets the locking trigger and adjusts the automatic elevation control on his ICBMT launcher. He fires! But you are ready. Your missile base crewmen intercept the warning on their self-contained Oxy radar packs. Your XA counterfighter is launched to intercept. Contact! Contact! You deliver the nuclear knockout! But wait. You have been attacked by a double-stage warhead, and the second one is bearing down! Your crew can only use their hand-eye gun radar activators. Can you still win? Are you good enough to survive? Only you can answer. Send for missile attack today and find out. Act now. 12 combat planes of all nations, real models, each identified by actual names. Brilliant colors, jets, fighters, bombers of all nations. Harmless. This is the equipment you wage war with. One intercontinental ballistic launcher can be stripped down and reassembled for engineer training. 2 ultra-range ICBMT missiles can be fired together as double-stage warheads or singly for attack and repeat attack. 1 Gravi Power Interceptor Missile Launcher. 1 Magno Find Anti-Missile ABC XAC type. 5 Base crewmen Astro outfitted for testing your missiles as personnel carriers and destroyers. 4 crew radii activator guns. 2-hand, 2 semi-automatic. 2 Oxeye radar packs with antennae and cosmic link belts. And 2 perfect scale Astro helmets, guaranteed radiation proof. Yes, make all-out war in your own home. Never before, never again value. All this for only $1.25. Guaranteed harmless. Any questions, class? Raise your hands. Stand up to be counted. Pagliacci, no contratto. That ought to answer a few questions. As to whither goest thou, O mankind? O mankind. Everywhere one turnest, one seest. Man bites dog, arouses wife. Wage all-out war in the safety of your own home. Well, of course, let us face it. These are times of infinite difficulty. Hardly anyone knows which way to turn. No question about it. And so all of us are today looking for mileposts, guideposts, little arrows pointing along that great yellow brick road to success, happiness, and true love. No question about that. Endless books are being printed on the subject. One after the other, they appear and find their way to those bestseller racks, right? Endless questionnaires are being prepared. And in my favorite humor newspaper, just the other day, the Philadelphia Inquirer, whipped out probably with the ne plus ultra of questionnaires. You recall the old days when they used to have questionnaires that would start out, are you a perfect mate? You know, that kind of thing. Or, do you really fit in the office? 10 easy-to-answer questions that will tell you why you haven't made it. That kind of thing, you know. Well, this is probably the best of all. And I kind of like this one. So please give me, there we go. Are you really happy? By William Bernard and Jules Leopold. The chain of stimulus response conditioned by circumstances stretches from cradle to grave, making the normal person a creature of constant dissatisfactions. Therefore, when we speak of happiness, we speak of relative happiness. Indeed, the two, complete absence of desire and irritation, as in sleep, is akin to death. Here a clue is sought not only as to whether your desires are withheld from fulfillment by psychological barriers, but also to whether you have eligible desires at all, desires which lend themselves to easy fulfillment, and so are the stuff of happiness. A high score would suggest that you are really happy in comparison with most others, whether you know it or not, Dad. And so we entitled today's very serious quiz, Are You Really Happy? Ask yourself that question, are you really happy? And in the following questionnaire, you'll find out whether you're really happy or whether you've been living in a fool's paradise. Directions, check yes if on the whole you agree with the statement. Check no if you are inclined to disagree. Try to answer every question, please, and work as slowly as you like. Are you really happy? On the whole, crowds are depressing and should be avoided on that account. Yes or no? Yes or no? Two. People who are meticulous, painstaking, and neat are usually preferable to less orderly people. Yes or no? Do you believe the West, because of its superior institutions, will triumph over communism? Yes or no? Do you believe in any philosophy, religion, any system of human thought or organization? Yes or no? Find out whether you're really happy. A person is master of his fate and the sole factor in determining his own success or failure. Yes or no? Oh, answer that one now. Don't duck out on that one. Are you the captain of your ship? Yes or no, by George? Women generally are difficult to be at ease with. Yes or no? Yes or no? Do you believe prayer can alter destiny? Yes or no? Yes or no? Do you believe in Marxism? Do you believe in science? Yes or no? Answer those questions. Stop hiding in the corner. We're trying to find out whether you're happy, you fool. We're not trying to hurt you. Now stand up. Get up off your knees. You are not foolish because your feelings tell you that you can trust these people and you want to do so. Yes or no? Assume there are people you deeply trust and rely on. In that case, A, you are foolish because in the end practically every person lets others down. True or false? Answer that now. Stand up. Scores: average 14, excellent 17 to 22, good 15 to 16, fair 12 to 14. Your score blank. Continued Friday. Answers: are you really happy? On page 22. Oh, you can hardly wait, can you? Next week's quiz: are you truly angry or are you a phony? In our subsidiary quiz, do you deserve to be bugged? Speaking of sublime happiness and the fool's paradise, speaking of a fool's paradise, this is WOR, AM and FM, New York. Ask yourself, does this station really tee me off? Yes or no? Is this shepherd a rotten you-know-what? Answer yes or no, and you've got to be honest. George. happiness, thou fleeting and fugitive thing. Yes, over the desert, wild and free, rides the bold sheik of Araby. His Arab band at his command follow his love's caravan. Under the shadow of the palms, he sings to call her to his arms. Oh, come here, baby. Oh, I'm the sheik of Araby. Oh, your love belongs to me. At night, when you're asleep, into your tent I'll creep, creepy creep. The stars that shine above will light our way to love. You'll rule this land with me. I'm the sheik of Araby. Your love belongs to me. At night, when you're asleep, come on, belt it, you guys, into your tent I'll creep. The stars that shine above will light our way to love. You'll rule this land with me. I'm the sheik of Araby. All together now, gang. Hey, that's got a great opening. If you'll just bring that right back to the beginning, Ed. All right, back to the beginning. There's a fantastic opening over the desert, wild and free. Hold it, Eddie. Now, wait a minute. Just hold it there. Hold it there. Over the desert, wild and free, rides the bold sheik of Araby. His Arab band at his command follow his love's caravan. Under the shadow of the palms, he sings to call her to his arms. While stars are fading in the dawn, over the desert they'll be gone. His captured bride close by his side. Swift as the wind they will ride. Proudly he scorns her smile or fear. Soon he will conquer love. Okay? Oh, you want to hear what he says then? He's sitting on his horse, see? He's galloping like mad, and there's this chick hanging onto the saddle horn above there. She's hanging on the front, and she's scared out of her skull, see? And he's got his patent leather hair all plastered down, and he's wearing this thing that goes around, you know, and that flies out behind him, and he belts it. Oh, I'm the sheik. Ah, baby, hang on. Oh, I'm the sheik. Oh, there. See, they're riding like mad. Oh, your love belongs to me. Your night when you're asleep. Now he's talking right into her ear. See, into your tent I'll creep, baby. Oh, he's laying it down. The stars that shine above. Now he points to the stars. See, we'll light our way to love. You'll rule this land with me. I'm the sheik of Araby. See, he whipped around, and he's got this big sword. See, he's waving at his band. Come on, let's go. I'm the sheik of Araby. Oh, your love belongs to me, baby. Another big thing with the sword. At night, when you're asleep, another thing with the sword there. Into your tent I'll creep. Now he spits the back twig. The stars that light above. Twig, we light our way to love. Now they're galloping like mad down a long slope. You'll rule this land with me. Oh, I'm the sheik of Araby. Now here they go. They're thundering it. Now, wasn't that thrilling? There's so much to be found in this world, and you're just flubbing around for crying out loud, scratching and hollering. Good heavens. So let's talk about scratching and hollering here. We had a TV promo here. Let's see what the TV promo is. Channel 9 brings the New York Mets to you with exciting warm-up and post-game shows, too. At home and away, follow the amazing Mets in action. We have a very folksy script department here, see? And whenever they're really being folksy, in spite of using terrible, cumbrous, awfully constructed sentences, they drop all G's. That means they're being vague, folks. At home and away, follow the amazing Mets in action on WOR TV, Channel Whoopi. Okay? You got it, huh? We sandwich it in between those old movies. Those rotten old movies. Sometimes, you know, when the Mets are really playing like the Mets, you can't tell the old movies from Eddie Kranepool. I'll tell you, it's a funny thing. Well, while we're on the subject of funny things here, we have with us Jules Pfeiffer's new book. It's called Hold Me, and it's a very good book. It sweats, and it's if you keep it long enough, you'll find that it grows a short beard. And it is. It's a hip book, and you can sometimes at night, late at night, you can hear it in your bookcase making quiet mewing sounds. You stick it in there next to Catch-22, and they'll have a fantastic problem. This is Hold Me by Jules Pfeiffer, available at your favorite bookstore for just $1.95. $1.95 isn't much in this day of a little slice off of the back end there. Each tiny little bit, you know, is a tiny drop. You know, speaking of tiny drops, the really important news rarely gets on the front pages. Now, for example, the last couple of weeks has been all kinds of stuff about taxes, you know, and whether or not they're going to reduce the budget and whether they're going to do something about that mess out in the Bronx. And, you know, well, you know what mess I'm talking about, the Bronx in general. And this is all the jazz that keeps getting on the front page. But way in the back is the kind of stuff that 1,000 years from now, guys will be digging out, deciphering, and will decide were the gigantic major issues of the day. For example, I think we'd better have a little gothic music with this, Edward. This is Monstrous Problems of the Day. Oh, yes, indeed. See, you were sitting there chewing that 4-cent cigar there. Oh, yes. No, you're hung up there, Dad. Nothing is worse than a gothic hang-up. That's better. You know, it's a funny thing. When you get a gothic hang-up, you get all the bats flying backwards. Like when a movie, you know, gets all balled up there with the sprockets. That nothing works, believe me, nothing can destroy the mood quicker of a monster horror movie than to have the bats suddenly start flying backwards. And to have the corpses going into the caskets instead of coming out. Yes, important messages for tonight and now. Consideration of the here, the hereafter, the existence of, and the designation of man, and the eternal cosmos, and the scheme of things. A little item on the back pages of the newspaper entitled Church Ponders Mission in Space. Subtitled, It is Our Duty to Multiply. If man one day conquers the outer world and new planets, should the church try to spread the gospel there if they are inhabited? This may at first look like an idle academic question, such as that which raged among medieval theologians on the sex of angels. But it is not. It is indeed not. Many theologians have split right down the middle over this very difficult to answer question. For example, a noted Italian theologian firmly believes the church should confine its mission to world mankind on grounds that nothing in the Revelation authorizes the church to go beyond. Apart from the limits set by the Revelation, the theologian contends that any natives of other worlds may have a completely different, quote, status than men, such as, for example, a status of elevated nature. The status of elevated nature was that of Adam and Eve. Another noted theologian shares the opinion, but with different arguments. In his opinion, the order of providence in which mankind presently lives is dominated by two fundamental events: the original sin and the redemption. The solidarity of mankind in the sin and redemption is based on the common nature as humans. In other words, there may be other natures, and the divine order may therefore be different. Hence, the Church should limit its mission to world humans. Thoughtful people are pondering these questions, and it may not be just idle thinking at the present stage of human scientific knowledge. And on the same page, from the same newspaper, Dateline St. Louis, scientists assert that they are on the verge of creating life out of inanimate matter. The Reverend Robert Dodds, planning director of the National Council of Churches, told a meeting here in St. Louis. He asked how Christians should respond to the possible development of feeling and thinking beings within even perhaps a test tube. Perhaps not beings with any resemblance to men, but thinking and feeling beings just the same. Should we send evangelists into the test tube? He said that we should prepare for many kinds of tomorrow. Their dad is the statement of the year. You see, that was on, roughly, I'd say, on about page 427, just after the TV listings and just before the rentals and various used cars for sale. You know, this may seem to be a very, as they pointed out in the article, a very academic question, but I can assure you it will certainly, like in 30 seconds, prove to be as probably as least academic as a question could be if something happens along the lines that some scientists are contemplating, literally. Then it would be quite evident that arguments over taxes would become academic. As a matter of fact, I've always thought that arguments over taxes are academic, and all the other stuff is real. I've always felt and if anybody's calling in thinking immediately that I am anti-church, I am not. I am just saying that some of the wildest, most profound articles, some of the most intriguing questions are asked in the little pieces that appear way in the back of the newspaper and don't even get into most newspapers. I would like to propose a thing now. Now we have. See, what the question, of course, the question is a very complicated one, but roughly it resolves itself into some things like this: that we have always considered that man is the supreme creation in the universe. This has been an assumption that has been made by most philosophers of one kind or another. We've just assumed this, and hence we have also assumed that not only assumed, but there has been a great belief that God created man in his image. Well, it would be a very difficult problem if suddenly we did land on another planet and we bore the same relationship to the inhabitants of that planet roughly as, say, an ant does to Albert Schweitzer. Well, now that would be very, very difficult. I think we would have difficulties there sending missionaries. I mean, the ants have had a lot of trouble converting us for the last 4 million years. Well, now, I don't know what this would do. You see, Chris, I'm just proposing why a lot of people are wondering about this. Now, on the other hand, what would we do? Now, what would happen? I'd just like to propose a reversal of the order. What would happen if, say, on a quiet Tuesday morning when you're fooling around and scratching, a lot of guys are going to school and other guys are arguing about taxes, other people are writing newspapers and people are blowing their nose, guys are watching television, and everybody's doing all the stuff that everybody does, when suddenly it was noticed by a scientist working in his laboratory, or let us say in an observatory. Let's say Mount Wilson. They're looking up there, and all of a sudden they see this light crying out loud, there's a light here. And it's 10 o'clock in the morning. And somebody in England says, there's a light. And some guy out in Honolulu says, there's a light up there. And they're all looking, sure, there's a light. For crying out loud, it's a little bit to the left of the sun. And it's, and they're taking the range, some radars, something is coming. And so immediately, of course, everybody would whip out the atom bombs, the nuclear weapons. This will be the first thing we would do, automatically, see. We get everything trained on it. And then the report comes from Russia. Hey, for crying out loud, will you guys quit putting the lights up in the air there? Hey, if you don't get that light out of there, this is not one of those cheap, rotten, imperialistic tricks. If you don't get that light out of there, we're going to blow that thing all to hell. Now get it out of there. Well, of course, then we'd automatically know that the Russians are not up to it. And then somebody would get on the phone and say, look, you Russians, we don't try that kind of jazz with us. The light is coming right down at us, and if you don't get that thing out of there, we're going to blow it to nothing. Well, there they're sitting. And so they send all the guys back to their telescopes, and everybody looks up in the air. And they say, wow. And you hear 48 million languages are going all at once. There's a light coming down, see. And immediately they would start the theories. Another Halley's Comet. Hey, there's a comet. I can tell it's a comet. Well, actually, all of us old Superman friends, we know difference. It's a bird, it's a plane. No, it is not a bird, it's a plane. Well, then it is disproved. It is not Superman. A lot of people are very disappointed at that. Well, then there's about roughly a half an hour wait while everybody is dialing in on this thing. So then they start shooting the rockets up there. This is the next thing. And a rocket goes up. And we've already contacted the Russians. We're shooting it up at the thing. We announced to the Russians, we are not going to shoot at you, we're going to shoot at your thing that's hanging up there. The Russians on the phone going, we are going to shoot at the thing you have put up there. We are not shooting at you. They shoot one. Well, the two rockets with nuclear warheads take off. And 6.5 milliseconds later, both of them are atomized. Goes ours first. Goes the Russians. Two great big blobs in the sky. And the third and most important blob is still hanging in there. It's still hanging up there in the sky. Well, then, oh, we callest upon down on thee all the considerations, the concerns of the number of things, ideas, hypotheses, consternations, and abstractions can dance upon the head of a pin. 20 minutes later, this thing is coming to a landing in the Jersey salt marshes. 5 minutes after that, these things have emerged. And with them come their missionaries. Now, the difficult thing about these things is, one, they bear no resemblance to man in any form, shape, or structure known upon this poor spinning orb. However, the thing that is quite evident to even the poorest peasant among the observers is that they are creatures of seemingly infinite intelligence, having come from the third galaxy beyond the seventh ring, past the outermost limit of the diametrically opposed lines that divert Saturn, Arcturus, and Pluvius III into the seventh realm of the third galactic stream. 452 light years they have moved, and they are now here to spread their light. In addition to that, they have apparently powers which we have not even contemplated having. 15 minutes later, they are setting up their missions along Park Avenue, in Red Square, Trafalgar Square, New Delhi, Rangoon, Adelaide, New Zealand, and one even opens up in Calumet City, Illinois. And they are ready for business. Now, this is just the bare outline of the problem. Now, I'm not quite sure how we would react to it. No, as a matter of fact, I think maybe I am sure how we'd react to it. But I'm not sure how we'd react to it yet. Come to think of it, I'm not. And what would really begin to have wildly interesting connotations with the little ripples that go beyond is when the first converts start appearing, which would be like 7 minutes after the ship has landed. Well, now this sounds like a very abstract and a very wildly ridiculous discussion here. Is it really? Because you see, we are planning to do quite the reverse. So undoubtedly some guy somewhere, like 7 light years away, is doing a late-night radio program and is laughing over the idea of these strange beings who could even perhaps have 2 feet. Ridiculous thought. And no fur. And be a strange pinkish, whitish, oddish color. And they have only 2 eyes. Which, of course, strikes horror into the natives listening to the show and immediately makes them think this guy's out of his skull. He's inventing all this jazz. Well, he's up there doing this thing, entertaining the natives late at night, beating on his tom-tom and blowing his flugelhorn, or whatever it is that they blow late at night on their late-night radio shows. And all the while, 1,700 guys down in Cape Canaveral, 4,700 guys just outside of Moscow, and about 2,800 guys are preparing the texts. Oh, it's not necessarily abstract any longer. Just, the barest outline. And then on the other hand, of course, on the same line, right below that article about Church Ponder's mission in space, just below it, the Church of Latter-day Saints reports that last year it won to the church 88,807 persons who previously had no religious ties. Total membership is now 1.7 million. The church has now over 12,000 full-time missionaries scattered around the world. Now, these are just the bare outlines of some things that have been debated hotly for a long time, but very quietly, and almost everybody who debates them is afraid to say the real things that are crossing his mind, as is the case with most debates. You can be forensic all you want, and you can be dramatic all you want, and you can be quote, insightful and decisive and insightful all you want. And these are all used, these words, with some care. You can be all these things, but there is a moment when, and it's with everybody, no matter what color he is, there is a moment when everybody stops for one instant. You have to. When all the things are stripped away, when all the colors, all the little trivial jazz that cloak mankind and make them, they have their tiny, infinite differences one from the other. When all those things are stripped away, that one thing remains, that one peculiar thing of humanity itself. And it is at that moment, when that is in question, that everybody stops and begins to talk about the weather. And begins to argue with whether or not your worthy opponent is merely trying to bluff his way through the issue, or whether or not your worthy opponent is concealing the facts that he knows to be, or whether or not the next election, and the next issue will be properly decided by the great and wonderful wisdom of all the people at the polls. And all these things begin to rise and fall. The beats begin to blame the hips. Then the hips begin to blame the squares. The squares begin to blame the system. The system begins to blame the Republicans. The Republicans blame the Democrats. The Democrats blame the weather. The weather blames the earth. The earth blames the currents. And the currents blame the galactic strange magnetic powers. And the strange, and on and on and on it goes. But everybody will not, I repeat, will not face that one final question. And 48 million light years away, some guy is doing a late night thing. This furry little guy that looks like a sponge. And he's doing a late night thing, and all the other sponges are listening. And these sponges have long since made the first giant strides toward carrying the message to all the other planets, in all the other galaxies, everywhere, carrying the truth about the sponge world, carrying the truth about the image of sponges, and the truth and the honesty and the belief and the righteousness and the true goodness of all spongificals. Nothing is worse than a Gothic hang-up, especially if it's repeated infinitely. There you go, you guys. And believe me, the Goths had plenty of hang-ups. Or was it the Visigoths? Kind of like that crew, too. Yes, sir, that's my baby. Did you hear about this gang? Speaking of the dream and reality, did you hear about the crowd out in California? There's a town named Weaverville, California. And they recently applied to the government. They got $69,000 to build a big air raid shelter for the town. And yes, they got $69,000. See, and the town went down. It went all the way to Washington on its knees to beg to get the money. And so the government shook out of the purse, 69 G's. And 1.5 years later, the government inspectors went out there to see the air raid shelter that they built in Weaverville, California. And it turns out to be a long, low ranch house type building with great big picture windows, pool tables, ping pong tables, and a swimming pool in it. And the natives of Weaverville, once again, have scored heavily. And now the government doesn't know what to do. I mean, after all, it is, and it can be construed as a philosophical discussion. The natives of Weaverville, California, plan to spend their time playing ping pong when the bomb comes down. They could really get that argument across, you see. Sure. Just keep your knees loose, Dad, and keep your glove oiled. Little neat's foot oil here and there, once in a while. Rub a little of it into the back of the head, too. You'd be surprised what it does to the cerebellum. It moves all right.